Hey guys, and welcome back to another week in DearPiggy's Basic Algorithms and Java tutorials. So in this week's video, we have a new topic to focus on. We're going to be talking about greedy algorithms. So yeah, the name is pretty funny, and yes, probably some of you guys may have heard this before. And so like always, our first video, we'll be talking about like introducing greedy algorithms, telling you a quick story of a real life scenario, and then talking about the concept. And the next video, we'll start to do code examples. So greedy algorithms, guys, are actually such a broad concept. It's so big, and there's so many ways, so many examples that we could talk about. And so since we only have so long, I'm going to focus on one specific example, but also at the same time, give you a few non-examples. And you'll see what that means in a second. So let's go ahead and talk about our quick story time. So as you guys know, I have a cookie business and it is thriving. It's doing amazing. I have plenty of customers. But as you know, cookies sometimes don't always come down to the right even dollar, right? I won't be like, just give me $35 flat. It would probably end up being something like $29.72 or something like that, right? And so let's say I have a customer and he's like a big shot. He's like really rich. He's got a lot of money and he bought like $300 worth of cookies from me. Like, dang, I really struck it gold that day, didn't I? But he doesn't give me exactly how much I asked for. He gives me a $500 bill. Now, don't get too excited. The story isn't that I just kept the change. The story is that I have to give him the change back. But since Sunny has been eating way too many cookies these past few years, baking and eating them, her math skills are a little bit rusty, right? And so she finds it hard to figure out the amount of change and then figure out what is the least number of coins she can use to give the change back, right? Because we don't want to just hand him like 10 million pennies because that would be terrifying. I want to find the least number of coins. Now, some of you guys who have done math before probably have heard what I'm talking about, right? The least number of coins you can get to return a certain amount of change. These are classic math problems, right? So we're going to use our greedy algorithm approach to solve this. We're going to be like, 1 sec, dude, I'm going to go and write up some code and I'll be right back with your change, right? So there are a couple of things that I want to talk about as a disclaimer before we get started. So is there an easy way to do this? Yes, but secondly, I want to bring up this idea, is the most greedy solution always the most optimal? Now, in a second, we're gonna talk about what the most greedy solution would be. So we're gonna come back and revisit this question, but let's go ahead and talk about what a greedy solution is. So greedy algorithms is an algorithmic strategy that picks the most optimal solution at the time. So notice I specified at the time, right? And it's basically crossing its fingers and hoping and praying that it'll lead to the most globally optimal solution or the best solution in the future. Now, to put that in regular English or human language, we can say that basically we're going to choose the greediest value or the biggest value or just the value that's going to currently feel like the best at the time, and we're not going to think about later consequences in the future. So then here's the big question. Is choosing the value that gives you the most profit at the time always going to give us the best solution? The answer is no. Because in some certain cases, like coin change, most of the times, yes, it does. And we'll talk about that in a second. But there are a few other examples where no, it does not give us the best solution. So for example, another math problem. I know you guys have probably all heard problems like this, like we have a map and there's all sorts of different cities on this map, but we want to find the shortest route from city A to city B. And what is that distance? Now, if we were to approach this with our greedy solution, we would start from city A, and then we would choose the one that's the best at the time, which would be the closest, right? So we'd go to the closest city. Then at that next city, we would find the closest city again and again and again, all the way until we get to city B. Now, doesn't that seem like a lot of work? Yes, right? And while that is a solution to keep on finding the closest city until you connect the dots, it is definitely not going to be our most optimal solution, right? We know that when finding the shortest distance, it does not mean you find a bunch of tiny little pieces because they end up connecting to be very long. So that is a classic example of when our greedy solution does not work, right? So we talked about that. I showed you what is an example of what it doesn't work. Now, some of you guys may be wondering, what do I mean by most greedy option at the time? So I'm going to give you another story. So today I've been baking, and it's kind of like the self-love baking where you just bake for the sake of baking and just happiness, right? And you're all going to end up eating the cookies yourself. Yes, we've all done that before. So I've baked 100 cookies. And so now the correct way, or probably the smartest way to do it, would to be maybe eat 10 cookies at a time for 10 days. And don't worry, guys, 10 cookies is not that much to me because my stomach is a black void. That would be the smart solution, right? But instead, what is the greediest solution? What is the best solution for me at this current point in time? Now, keep in mind, I am probably a sad, hungry person. So the best solution for me at this current point in time would to be eat all 100 cookies right now, right? So I follow my greedy thoughts and I eat all the 100 cookies right now. They're all gone. Now, that seemed like the best decision for me today. But tomorrow, is that going to be our best decision when I'm sick and throwing up? No. 5 weeks from now, is that going to be our best decision when I'm gained like 100 pounds? No, right? So that is a classic example of why choosing the most greedy solution at that current point in time may not always work out to be the best in the end. So we've talked a lot about what not to do, when not to use greedy, why greedy doesn't always work. I'm going to show you an example now of when greedy does work. So it's really important to differentiate this. Usually I never tell you guys about what not to do, but since what not to do is so important for greedy algorithms, I'm spending a lot of time on them. But this is an example of what to do. So back to the coin change, right? I'm sure we've all seen math problems like this, and I'm currently facing this in my cookie business as well, right? So we have coins. Now, this is the best picture I could find. It's not mathematically accurate because we don't have 20-cent coins, right? But in this scenario, let's pretend that we have 20-cent coins, 10-cent coins, and 5-cent coins, and 1-cent coins. So we start off with our 36 cents, and that's the change I'm giving back. Now, the most greedy solution would be to, I guess, take as many of the largest coin values we can. And so our current largest coin value is 20. How many 20s can we take out of 36? Well, at the very most, we can only take one, right? So we take the very most, we leave 20, we have a 20-cent coin, and we're left with 16. Now, 16, can we take a 20-cent coin? No, we can't. What is the next biggest option? 10 cents? We can take one 10-cent coin. We're left with 6. We can't take 20 or 10, we can take 5. So we subtract 5, we're left with 1, and we can only take a penny, right? So it just so happens that this example was one of each coin, and our coins weren't exactly real US coin values, but you can see the idea, and the basic idea is to keep on subtracting the biggest value over and over and over until you can't subtract anymore. And then you move on to the second smallest value, and you keep on doing that, right? So as I'm talking about this, maybe you can try and think of some sort of Java idea that we've been using since intro to Java that keeps on running over and over. So this is a loop until something returns false. So I'm going to leave you at that idea. See if you can think on it. And next video, we will be back to code this up and write some real code on Replit. So I hope you guys enjoyed that story time. I hope you guys understood greedy algorithms, and I hope you'll be back for next video. So I will see you guys then. Bye, guys.